So if you are hearing this, this means this video did not hit its where it was supposed to be uploaded at. It was supposed to be uploaded on Valentine's Day. Um, of course, the intro wouldn't make sense because it wasn't uploaded on Valentine's Day, so I had to construct a new intro. This should be uploaded on February the 16th or the 17th, and I was doing this topic because again, I just thought it'd be a fun little topic to do for the two really strong female sorcerers of Jujutsu Kaisen. And I got caught up in a few things, so it didn't get uploaded when it was supposed to be uploaded. So I won't waste too much of your time because I'd already screwed up the intro prior, and I'm just going to push you guys right into the actual content of the video. And I hope you guys enjoy, like, and subscribe if you like this type of content. And I hope you guys enjoy. When it comes to the two female sorcerers, Yuki and Uro, they both have extensive knowledge on Jujutsu. We can first start off with Uro, who is a sorcerer from the Heian era and should be experienced when it comes to cursed energy in the way and the aspects of it at the bare minimum compared to any modern era sorcerer. Although in this case, Yuki isn't just any modern era sorcerer. Yuki's knowledge of Jujutsu isn't just limited to cursed energy. She has direct knowledge on things like Tengen, and through an extension of Tengen, has learned about open domains. Now, I'm not trying to say Uro doesn't know about open domains, but I do think the chance is super unlikely that she does, since only two characters have open domains. We are aware that Uro is aware of who Sukuna is, but I highly doubt that she's even ever seen Malevolent Shrine in action. But regardless, this is just the overall knowledge of the sorcerers, which in this case, since Yuki doesn't have a domain that is open, this shouldn't negatively impact Uro by any standard, and the same goes towards Yuki. Now, moving on to a bit of a contentious and important subject of the video, which is cursed energy output and reinforcement. This time, we will start with Yuki, and her cursed energy stats are pretty absurd, matched up with her cursed technique, which I'll get more into later into the video. But for now, she is capable of outputting enough force to punch through Kenjaku's guard and damage him heavily. Now, this is also due to her cursed technique, but regardless, we are aware that the output of her attacks does affect how strong her attacks are with her cursed technique. With Yuki noting herself that the output of her cursed technique and attacks have dropped due to her taking damage and using RCT, but she is still capable of severely harming Kenjaku with just one attack, and her reinforcement, I argue, is even better than her normal output. While I say this is due to the fact she was capable of taking Kenjaku's short hit inside his domain and getting right up from it and surviving. Now, I'm sure everybody's already aware that you are genuinely amped in your domain. Your techniques and power in general is higher than what you would be outside of it. So Yuki was capable of withstanding and getting up from this attack without even healing yet, which even shocks Kenjaku, who questions why she doesn't heal her injuries, but she is fully capable of moving somewhat even after the injuries. Now for Uro, her output is pretty underrated since she is able to damage Yuta with an icebreaker. And although this is a fatigued Yuta without Rika manifested, I do still think this is somewhat mentionable. Although to note, without Thin Icebreaker, she was not capable of doing any significant damage to the same base Yuta, so her base output with her technique isn't all that much, but Yuta's reinforcement is still nothing to scoff at, even when he's not at full power. Uro's reinforcement, on the other hand, most likely upscales her output just off. She was capable of blocking a stacked attack from a way stronger Yuta with Rika manifested and a cursed tool on his arm as well. And his cursed energy should be fully welled up or refilled from what Ryu and Uro are saying. So it is a pretty good feat to stalemate with Yuta's output as a physical attack when he's back to 100%. Uro was also capable of taking the punishment that Rika and Yuta dished out against her, and Rika should be relative to Yuta, are put on the same level, at least due to how Ryu makes comparisons with the two and the similar feats they do. That is pretty much all for both their output and reinforcements, which also correlates to their toughness and physical stats as well. Now onto their innate techniques. So just like I mentioned before when talking about Yuki, that I was going to speak on her curse technique later, and later is now. Yuki's curse technique is called Star Rage, which allows Yuki to give herself virtual mass, and the Shikigami named Garuda shares the same effect as well. This curse technique is stated by Kenjaku to just outright be able to ignore and defy concepts with this technique, which is also a part of the reason why earlier I spoke about it in conjunction with her output. But regardless, being hit with a Star Rage attack will not end well, especially if you don't have a high reinforcement. It hit so hard that, like I mentioned before, Kenjaku was completely sent flying outside of the empty barrier and had to use RCT immediately to heal his practically severed arm. Now, ironically, Earl's technique is also quite complex but more defensive than offensive in my eyes. Earl's curse technique is sky manipulation, which allows her to control the skies offensively and defensively. We have seen her use Ice Thin Breaker, which is her using sky manipulation to hit the surface of her opponent's body, which sent Yuta flying when it was used. Earl can also manipulate the sky to distort her enemy's body or her attacks, which I think is one of the more impressive perks of the abilities, since she's able to do this to Yuta's punch that he tries to land on her, and also does this with Ryu's Granite Blast and throws it right back at him. It is a pretty versatile technique that can be used for each side of combat and is effective on both sides. Now, as far as barrier techniques and proficiency goes with domains, both of these two are pretty vague. Like, it's clear both of them have a domain, and I lean towards both of them definitely having a sure hit effect within their domain. But not only does Yuki have a domain expansion, she can also use simple domain, which is a counter to a domain sure hit. Earl doesn't have a simple domain to our knowledge, but in regard to a domain clash or a battle of domains, they should have both of those, so a domain clash can happen and can occur within this fight. Now, this is something new I have added to my system before getting to the verdict of the fight and how the fight would go. I want to talk about the counters and advantages the two sources have over each other. So first, let's start off with one of the first counters is the fact that Yuki does have a simple domain, so even by the hypothetical chance she loses in a domain clash, she still has a counter to the sure hit that can buy her time. Yuki also has an advantage on her side due to her Shikigami Garuda, who can also use her curse technique, which makes it really dangerous to get hit by due to it being able to hit just as hard and be used as a weapon and an extension of Yuki than an actual Shikigami. Earl doesn't necessarily have any advantages, but she does have a hard counter to Yuki's attacks. Earl is capable of distorting space and the sky to the point where she can distort Yuki's punches before she gets hit, and she should be able to do the same with Garuda if Yuki tries to launch and throw Garuda on her, so they both can effectively give each other some trouble. Now, for the verdict and how the fight would go, after going through Yuki and Earl's capabilities, I do just want to point out Yuki should be slightly faster than Earl. I do think she has a higher output and reinforcement. Earl's output by any means isn't bad, but she does lack the proper speed feats that Yuki does have. Earl doesn't physically go relative or have scaling to Ryu or any true speed scaling to a fully healthy Yuta besides blocking one attack from him, which could be ruled out as an outlier. I do think the fact that she also usually sneaks Yuta or doesn't really fight him on like a head-to-head standpoint, which is why I'm saying that I don't think that she really scales the Yuta or Ryu physically, but she can keep up with them due to the fact that her hacks are pretty dominant. Although I will say I don't think it's a blitz tier above, but I do think it's a noticeable difference enough in the fights. Yuki's output mixed with Star Rage would likely also be able to take Earl out in one hit. Even if Earl does have RCT, I don't think she's going to be able to fully heal before Yuki presses her again, but this is under the assumption that she does get hit. Earl can counter and distort the space around her to evade a direct hit to her from Yuki, although Yuki could do something similar to what she does against Kenjaku and throw Garuda at her. And while she is distorting Garuda, she can travel the distance and connect a solid blow to Earl. Domains is also a thing that should be talked about, but in character, neither of these two really cast a domain on sight. Earl just outright doesn't, and Yuki doesn't, but this is due to her fighting Kenjaku, who she gets prior information on about how supreme his barrier already is. So I lean towards Yuki still using her actual hands more than her domain in this case. If a domain clash does occur, I wouldn't be against Earl winning since she is seen clashing domains with Ryu and Yuta for a short period of time. But within the span of the clash, Yuki could most likely still take her out or do enough damage to the point her domain collapses. The only way I can see Earl even having a slimmer of a chance of a win is if she either wins the domain clash somehow and finishes Yuki with a short hit, which is highly unlikely, or try and play super defensive and just counter Yuki, And even then, I don't think it's in character for Oro to do so. And she wouldn't know about Yuki's abilities prior to being hit with an attack or Garuda. So yeah, it just doesn't look good for her overall at all. And I do think Yuki can overwhelm Oro and pretty much just one punch her. But I do just want to bring out and mention again that there is a high chance if Oro does just play defensively, which I don't think that she would in character, but if Oro just does play defensively, she would beat Yuki no contest. I do think that Oro could beat Yuki if she plays defensively and just distorts her hits, because Yuki's fighting style is more hand-to-hand combat, which I mean, what can I say? Oro like just directly counters when she can distort her opponent's bodies and just use that and counter, just continue to play counter game. So I do think it's really a toss-up coin. I mean, I'd say if you want to say that like who should win in a fight with when you don't count in their character, it should always be Uro. But if you do count in how they act as characters and what they do in character, I do think Yuki could probably come up on top. Yuki could probably come up on top, right? So that is what I pretty much have. I'd probably say the victor of this one is Uro, right? And honestly, that's pretty much all for this video. I do think it is up to interpretation with these two. I wouldn't be against somebody saying Yuki wins. I wouldn't be against somebody saying Uro wins. I just think most likely Uro has this on top. But in the regards of this video, I do think Yuki could come out on top due to the fact that if we are applying their characters, I just don't think Uro would continue to play defensively and eventually go on the offense just due to her nature. But that's pretty much all. I'm glad if you made it this far into the video. Again, I would appreciate a like, sub, comment for your own opinions. And I will see you guys in the next one. Also, thanks for bringing the YouTube vs. Kashimo vid to 2K. I very much appreciate that. The support and love you guys give me is, like, I mean, what can I say? It's the best. Honestly, it's one of the best feelings in the world that I felt in a while. And, you know, that I appreciate y'all for that. And I will see you guys in the next one. More JJK content coming up. And more Blue Lock content coming up as well. I think you guys are going to think that's pretty interesting. But I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.